Good morning, students. I think you all are fine. We are in the chapter Breathing for Energy. In the last classes, we have seen the important respiratory organs and different parts of the respiratory system and also the phases of breathing, that is inspiration and expiration. In the last class, we have also seen the exchange of gases from alveoli to the blood. Now, let me give you some clues, and from the clues, you must identify who I am. First clue, I am a protein present in your body. Second, I am present on RBCs or red blood cells. Third, I give red color to the blood. Fourth, I carry oxygen. Can you identify who I am? Yes, very good. It is hemoglobin. Hemoglobin molecules helps in transportation of oxygen. Today we can see how oxygen is transported in our body. Can you see this image? Can you identify the structure? Yes, it is hemoglobin molecule. From this image, can you identify the parts of hemoglobin? Let us take this word hemoglobin and let us divide or split this word into two. That is heme and globin. Heme is the non-protein part and it contains iron in it to which oxygen is attached. And globin is the protein part of hemoglobin. It has 4 protein strands. Hemoglobin unit has 4 protein strands and each protein strand has a heme unit. So, a hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules. Since oxygen molecules is attached to iron present in the heme unit, each protein strand have a heme unit and we have 4 protein strands and a hemoglobin molecule can carry 4 oxygen molecules. So we have already seen the function of hemoglobin. The main function of hemoglobin is the transportation of oxygen. So we have seen in the structure of hemoglobin that hemoglobin molecule contains iron. So we need proper iron intake for the proper functioning of hemoglobin molecule, or the structure of hemoglobin is made up of iron. So the formation of hemoglobin molecule need iron. Can you tell me some food material which contain iron? Is very good. Leafy vegetables contain iron. There are many food items which contain iron and we must include this type of food in our diet for proper function or for proper formation of hemoglobin molecule. The average amount of hemoglobin present in a man is 15 gram per 100 ml and in women is 13 gram per 100 ml. So, iron is an important component which helps in the formation of hemoglobin. If there is lack of hemoglobin, it may cause anemia. I think you are familiar with the term anemia. Do you know what is anemia? Yes, anemia is the condition where there is a lack of hemoglobin in the blood. And to avoid this situation, we must try to include proper amount of iron in our diet. And schools provide iron tablets for their students. The students are very active people and they need high amount of oxygen, and proper hemoglobin function is needed for students. And thus, iron tablets are given to the students. I think you are now familiar with the hemoglobin molecule, the structure of hemoglobin molecule, and the function of hemoglobin molecule. You have also seen the importance of iron in our diet. Now we have seen hemoglobin is needed for the transportation of oxygen. Now let us see a video showing the transportation of oxygen in human and identify how the oxygen is transported in the body.
The major component of red blood cells is a protein named hemoglobin. Hemoglobin is composed of 4 polypeptide chains, each of which is bound to a red pigment molecule called heme. Heme binds oxygen to a ferrous iron in its center. Thus, a molecule of hemoglobin can bind up to 4 molecules of oxygen. Binding of oxygen is a cooperative process. Binding at one site changes the protein conformation in a way that facilitates further binding at other sites. Formation of the hemoglobin-oxygen complex, known as oxyhemoglobin, is reversible depending on oxygen partial pressure. Oxygen binds in the lungs where its pressure is high and dissociates in tissues where its pressure is low. While hemoglobin is responsible for transport of most of the oxygen, it only carries a small portion of carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide binds to the polypeptide part of hemoglobin and not the heme, but its binding changes the conformation of the molecule and decreases its affinity for oxygen. In other words, the two gases compete for binding on hemoglobin. Oxygen binding is favored in the lungs, while carbon dioxide binding is more favorable in tissues.
We have seen hemoglobin is an important molecule, helps in the transportation of oxygen. But in the last class, we have seen oxygen move from alveoli to blood through diffusion. We have seen it. Diffusion is a process which helps in movement of oxygen from higher concentration to lower concentration. So, oxygen can move through diffusion. But why hemoglobin? It can move through diffusion, isn't it? But why diffusion? First point is, oxygen is rarely soluble in blood or water. And diffusion takes a long time. Let me give you a situation. Let us think of a situation in which we are at home and we must reach our friend's home, which is far apart. If we start walking, it will take a long time to reach the destination. Then what will we do? Yes, most of us will take a vehicle. It will help us to reach the destination more easily, comfortably, and at time. So, in the transportation of oxygen, hemoglobin acts as a vehicle. Oxygen from the alveoli is taken up by the hemoglobin and is transported to the destination, that is the tissues. So, how is this possible? If a molecule binds with another molecule, then how it is released to tissues? Yes. Here is the importance of environment. The environment around the hemoglobin has a great role in the hemoglobin oxygen transportation. In the alveolar region, we can see that there is high amount of oxygen and the carbon dioxide concentration is very low. so that pH of this region is also high. So, in a situation where oxygen concentration is very high and pH is high and the concentration of carbon dioxide is low, the hemoglobin molecule has a high affinity towards oxygen molecule. Thus, hemoglobin molecule forms a reversible bond between oxygen in a cooperative manner and forms oxyhemoglobin. In this oxyhemoglobin is red pigmented and it is mainly giving color to the blood. And from this alveolar region, the oxyhemoglobin or hemoglobin moves to the tissues. And in the tissues or in that situation, the environment changes. In the tissue region, the concentration of oxygen is low, but the concentration of carbon dioxide is very high and thus pH is low. In this situation where concentration of oxygen is low and the concentration of carbon dioxide is high and also the pH is low, then the affinity of hemoglobin towards oxygen decreases and it detaches the oxygen molecule from hemoglobin and forms deoxyhemoglobin. This deoxyhemoglobin is purplish blue in color. And now the oxygen is released near the tissue fluid, and by diffusion the oxygen reaches the tissue fluid and the cells surrounding it takes in oxygen as they need oxygen for cellular respiration. This is taking place through the process diffusion. Thus, the hemoglobin acts as a vehicle. Hemoglobin mainly acts as the vehicle which transports oxygen from alveolar region to the different parts of the body. I think now you are familiar with how hemoglobin helps in the transportation of oxygen and how this transportation easily happens in human body. I think you are also clear with the importance of environment surrounded by the hemoglobin. Hemoglobin reversibly forms bond with oxygen, which helps in attaching and detaching the oxygen easily. Now let me give you a situation. Do you know what will happen to you when you are trapped in a smoke-filled room? How you can rescue yourself from this smoke-filled room and also others? A smoke-filled room means the environment or the surroundings lack oxygen. Smoke contains many dust particles and many other gases, which reduces the amount of oxygen around us. And also, the amount of oxygen in our body also decreases when we are trapped in a smoke-filled room. So, as early as possible, we must try to find an aerated place. We must close our nose and mouth with a damp cloth and move to the aerated place as soon as possible. You must also help the people who are unable to move due to the fatigue, dizziness or nausea. You may feel dizziness, nausea, fatigue, etc. when trapped in a smoke-filled room, and you must try to help others who are also trapped in this smoke-filled room to move to the aerated place. It is the best thing we can do to rescue a person from a smoke-filled room. Do you know what is the main reason which decreases the availability of oxygen in a smoke-filled room? Mainly, a gas is present in the smoke, that is carbon monoxide. Carbon monoxide is an important gas present in smoke and which has great effect on our body. Hemoglobin molecule has a greater affinity to carbon monoxide than oxygen. If a carbon monoxide is present in our surrounding, Then the hemoglobin molecule try to take up the carbon monoxide, and carbon monoxide and hemoglobin molecule forms a irreversible bond or a stable compound which is called carboxyhemoglobin. This carboxyhemoglobin is a stable compound and the bond between this carbon monoxide and hemoglobin is irreversible. Thus, it causes the destruction of hemoglobin molecule. This compound formation doesn't allow the movement of oxygen in our blood. Thus, it causes lack of oxygen in our blood and lack of oxygen for the cells, which causes dizziness, nausea, fatigue, etc. So, we must try to move to well aerated place as soon as possible when trapped in a smoke-filled room. I think now you are familiar with how oxygen is transported from alveolar region to different parts of the cells and the importance of hemoglobin in this transportation, and also how carbon monoxide affects the transportation of oxygen. The environment of hemoglobin has great impact on how oxygen is transported. Now let me give you a flow chart. It represents the transportation of oxygen from the alveolar region to the cells, that is its destination. Have you completed the flow chart? Yes. Then let us check each step. First, the oxygen is in alveolar. By diffusion, it reaches the blood. Now, in the second step, oxygen is in blood. From the blood, in the alveolar region, the hemoglobin molecule takes up this oxygen and forms oxyhemoglobin. It is in the alveolar region. Then, as blood flows, the hemoglobin reaches the different tissues. And this tissue region contains a different environment which causes the detachment of oxygen from hemoglobin molecule and form deoxyhemoglobin. Now the oxygen is in the tissue fluid, and by diffusion the cells take up the needed oxygen for the cellular respiration. Thus the oxygen is transported from the alveolar region to the cells. I think you are clear with the flow chart and the movement of oxygen in the human body. Now let me give you a follow-up activity. You must prepare a model of hemoglobin, and also you must prepare a poster which shows the importance of iron in our diet. Thank you.